Okay, you're welcome back to the Rossie Podcast in association with Shannonside FM. I'm joined again by Conor Devaney to look back on Roscommon's 2-point defeat to Cork in Portlaoise. That result means that Roscommon are out of the championship. They finished bottom of Group 2. Look, Conor, we have to get straight into it. This is a very disappointing result. There's no other way to put it. I said a couple of weeks ago, if we lost to Cork, it'd be a disaster of a year, you could say, a disaster of a championship. What did you make of the game?
Yeah, it was poor. It was equally, if not poor display than we've played all year. We've been playing badly all year, to be honest. The last 9 games, I think, we've only won one against London in Championship first game. And that wasn't all plain sailing either for a large part of the game. So we've been playing badly, and it was almost inevitable in the first 10 minutes of the game that Cork just had their nose in front. They were going to stay in front. Yes, Roscommon had a chance when the hooter had gone and to get a 2-pointer, to get the right player on the ball. And they did get the right player on the ball in Diarmuid, because Kieran had missed a few before that. So it was blocked down, it was a team effort, and that was it. Probably wouldn't have deserved that equaliser anyways. So all in all, a poor display, as has been the case all season, unfortunately.
Yeah, like what's gone so badly wrong? Because I remember the first 3 league games, we bet down Louth, we bet Monaghan in the high by 5 points, and you're thinking, it's going quite well here. 3 wins out of 3, start the league, absolutely fine. We then, the Meath game, we lost badly there. Okay, we go down to Cork and win comfortably in Cork. But ever since then, you say there, 1 win in 8 or 9 games, and that's against London. Like, what's gone so badly wrong in the last 3 months that we've seen this kind of form?
Well, it's interesting, like down, Louth, Monaghan, 3 games we won. They're all still in the championship as of today, and playing well, to be fair to all 3 teams, improving. We are disimproving. It seems as if teams are peaking at the right time, and Roscommon always seem to peak at the wrong time. Now, maybe it's not peaking at all. Maybe we're just getting those teams down, Louth, Monaghan, when they're at the height of their training load. They're preparing for an All-Ireland quarter-final already in February, whereas we seem to be going backways from February on. It's been the case for a couple of years, and it has happened in previous seasons before as well. You had a similar Cork game, was it 2 years ago? Very similar circumstances. So that's just been the trend. Unfortunately, it looks like there's very little coaching, managing going on. It's very unclear. We're one of the very few teams that if you watch a Roscommon game back and count the amount of passes that actually go backways, it's double, if not triple, the amount of passes from, as we always say, good footballers, players like Kieran and Diarmuid, hand passing without looking inside. It's going backways, it's going back again, and it's slow and it's lethargic. And other teams, especially with the new rules, are just not doing that. Like you take Donegal, they're working brilliant at the weekend again, but when they're around the arc, there's pace, and they only pass the ball to someone who's coming off their shoulder at pace, whereas we're literally at times standing, hand pass to someone else who's standing. There was no point in making that pass in the first instance anyways, because we've gained no ground, momentum, anything, and we're kind of the only team that seems to be playing that poorly and in that style, what you might call the old style of the old rules, we'll say.
Yeah, because I couldn't believe it in the first half. We actually got a good few turnovers early on in the first half of Cork. But it's almost like when we win the ball back, the first thing is nearly to settle it down, slow it down, nearly actually look backwards rather than 2 kick passes and you could be nearly in on goal if you actually turn the ball over in 11v11, the space up the pitch. And that's the difference. Cork actually, in the first half, they did maybe 2 or 3 kicks, got a few scores, and that was the difference that we lost in the first half. I think the second half we did up the tempo, that the intensity was up because we were forced to, unfortunately. But I couldn't understand why we're still playing this slow, as you say, lethargic football in the first half, backwards, sideways, and it's just so slow. I mean, it's very slow.
It's slow, and no player seems to have confidence. Like again, taking Kieran, I'm using Kieran Murtha as an example because, as I always say here, he's one of the best players I've played with. So him not scoring those shots that he was going for the last day just shows a lack of confidence. Why is he not playing well? Why is Keane McKeown not a star in forward for us? Why is Enda not scoring several points a game? Why why is German not scoring several points a game? Like, you have to ask the question why. And I would never, ever blame the players. If you always end up having to point the finger at management. Why are these players not playing well? Why are they not playing with confidence? Well, I don't have the answers, but it looks like the system they're playing, whatever tactics they're doing in training, whatever they're being told to do, doesn't suit them, or it just isn't working, which is plain to be seen. It isn't working. Okay, midfield is an issue. Again, Cork, two massive midfielders. We were always going to struggle, and that's where Cork had a platform to launch a lot of attacks from. And again, that's not to blame any midfielders. I don't think any midfielder in Roscommon at the moment, unfortunately, will be able to compete with a Meath midfield or a Cork midfield. But we have to come up with something different. For example, kickouts. Like Conor Carroll's kickouts the last day. He, like, even with the wind, he tells the whole stadium where he's going. It's either right hand or left hand. Tells where he's going, even mouths where he's going, and chips it up into the air. Like, no matter what sort of midfielder you are, it's at best a 50-50. And yes, the new rules dictate somewhat. You have to kick it long. But better teams and better goalkeepers still manage to try and find a man rather than just telling everyone where it's going and 10 seconds later that's where it goes. There has to be something else to be tried there when you are losing at midfield.
And it seems to just be that lack of confidence going through the team, whether it's, Conor Carroll, who's been, excellent for the last couple of years, but I think just the last few months, I think his confidence is gone, and that's maybe just filtering then. The defenders, unfortunately, probably aren't at the level they'd want to be. We're not winning enough at midfield. And then, as you mentioned, our forwards aren't scoring enough, a lot of them, And we kind of go back to, as I said, Darragh Craig got 5 at the weekend, but then you have Kieran 1, Diarmuid 2, okay, Keane McKeown came on, probably the best he's shown for a while. He got 2 points. But again, just Enda got 1, but not enough, unfortunately. Only one forward again, nearly, who could say had a decent day.
Yeah. And even at that, I think it was him that missed a clear-cut goal chance that he should have buried and would have got us back or into the lead, I think, at the time. So, yeah, it's just not happening all over the pitch. Even players like Ronan Daly, why isn't he bombing forward, getting on the score sheet? I don't know if he has scored at all this championship, maybe one at wing back. It's just not, maybe just not encouraged. Unfortunately, it all goes back to the management of this team and the coaching of this team. And unfortunately, I think the writing was on the wall for this management team a long time ago when you'd like to ask McHugh why he left after year one. There seemed to be some improvement after year one, to be fair to the whole management team. And there seems to be a disimprovement after that. And you'd wonder, that's not all down to McHugh, I'm sure. But you'd have to wonder why he left. He felt he had to leave after year one. And again, only a few weeks ago, with Ultan Harney leaving, and seemed to be trouble in the camp. Like, who's to blame for that? You can only say management. And I mean, the writing was on the wall for this management team at that stage, I think.
So looking at the game itself as well, we get off to a good start, and you think maybe that, I mean, we actually mentioned, I'm going to go back to the Galway analysis we did with yourself and Cathal, and you thought, I suppose, we get a big performance. There would be at least one big performance. I mean, you can't fault the effort in the second half. In fairness, they did try. They kept trying. It wasn't happening. We started off well, but again, unfortunately, once Cork nearly got ahead, it was, not really a lot happening. And to be honest, we were lucky at halftime. It was only 4. Maguire missed 2 goal chances for Cork in that first half. So it could have actually been a lot worse at halftime.
It could have been worse at halftime, yeah. It looked all very easy for Cork up until halftime. It was just, the whole thing was just a struggle. It was slow. Just the style of play wasn't good. It wasn't offering anything for the fans to get behind. It was poor. And now I know midfield, Eddie got a knock, but actually when he got the knock, he was a little bit better after got a nice point in the second half early on. And yes, we did improve at the beginning of the second half, but Cork still kept in front. Until there was 2 points in it at the end when the hooter went. So I don't know. Cork did get scores easy, all right. And I wouldn't blame the defence entirely for that either, because as you said earlier, with the new rules, if you play like Cork did and do get your head up early, kick the ball, maybe 2 kicks and you're inside and you're 1-on-1, you have to favour the forward in all cases there, which is the question, why don't we do that? And we did it maybe twice or three times, and it did work on the counter attack. But as you said, we don't do it every time, and you need to do that every time. So it's just I don't really know how to explain the style of play or why it's so poor with these players not doing even the simple things we know they can definitely do, which is kick a 30-yard pass. Like Jeremy can do that, Kieran and Ben can do that, Darragh Craig can do that, and you just don't see them when they're on the 45 looking up to kick that pass inside. Like there was one instance where Brian Stack in the second half made a run all the way forward, and Brian was actually one of the better players for Roscommon, all the way to the full forward line. And he was literally the only person inside, we'd say, the new scoring arc. And he was right in the full forward line. I think it was Devaney on the ball. And Devaney didn't look in at all. Just it was stand, hand pass back. And you would have to question what training is going on. That's the natural reaction for a player. That's their first thought, is to stand, look backwards, make a hand pass to someone else who is not moving either. So there was no point in making the hand pass. Again, not Devaney's fault. Questioning what's going on at training, that this is the first thought of a player when there's 101 inside with Brian Stack who can play anywhere.
Yeah, because you would have played with a lot of these, like Devaney and the Mercers, Brian Stack, and like even Devaney would be a player like, you know, start of his career and that he'd actually be a player who would take risks, who would maybe try the spectacular kind of kick or outside the boot or a shot like that. I think even Devaney now is nearly becoming ultra safe. You know, he gets the ball. Even Connor Cox has kind of gone into that mode as well. They're actually getting the ball around the 45, and they're not really even looking inside. They're almost like, okay, we have the ball now. You know, let's calm it down a bit. Let's keep possession. It's nearly the same methodical way each attack. There's no nearly difference to a regular attack for Roscommon.
Yeah, Devaney over the years has been absolutely full of confidence, has scored like unbelievable scores for Roscommon and very important ones too. But if you needed someone to score and the game was level, or a 2-pointer like the last two, you'd be definitely giving the ball to Devaney because you'd know he'd have the courage and the confidence to go for it. But as you say, doesn't seem to be the case when you're looking from the sideline that's what's in their head. It seems that they have a couple of pre-prepared moves in the forward line where they get it up so far to try to create this bit of space in the D area, and someone makes a run into it and they try this 20 or 30 yard forward pass sometimes. But like good defenses, you're trying to make a pass right into the D where defenses will come from either side and shut that down very easily. So it might look like there's space there, and it seems if that's blocked up, there's nothing else to do, only continue and hand pass around. Now, that can be okay if you do what Donegal do, and they had to do it several times against Mayo, who were defending very well the last day. Donegal kept looping around the arc, and one player would hand pass to another would come the opposite direction at pace, looking for a shot, and if the shot wasn't on, immediately another player would come the opposite direction at pace until a shot or a hand pass over the top became available. And that's simple to train. But it's at pace. The ball and the players have to be moving at pace. It's so easy for Cork to defend when the Roscommon players, there could be 6 of them outside the 45, standing still with the ball moving slowly over and back. It's very easy to defend.
Yeah, one of the positives performance-wise of the game, and it's probably an issue we have in terms of defence, is when Brian Stack moved out the pitch, you could see him a lot more involved. Like in front of the stand, he caught a ball over 3 Cork fellas, and he was one of the fellas now that was nearly trying to really grab that game and try and, you know, rescue it from, you know, defeat. And I suppose that's an issue we have had. We were missing Brian Stack for large parts of the league. There's only one Brian Stack, and we need him in full back. We need him in centre back. You know, he can't do everything.
Yeah, we talked about this the last time we were on as well. Brian Stack, unfortunately, being one of our best players, also is one of our best man markers, and he's had to be put in full back on different players, and that he's not as effective or a threat going forward then. And as you say, when he moves out the pitch, it's far more effective for Roscommon. And like, Brian is an excellent footballer, always has been, and he can do, as I said earlier, he can do anything. If he was in full forward, he probably scored. So he seems to be able to take risks, go forward, take on his man, beat his man, but not enough players are playing with the same energy. They look tired, and then some players possibly playing out of position like Enda. Like, I don't think it's fair to put Enda midfield. Yes, for shorter midfielders, but could you not have? You still have Doyle, you have Eddie Nolan, you've Canaan, and you've Shane Calore, who is never used for some reason, which I'd question as well. So why not move Enda forward? Like, it's very easy for a Cork midfielder to run forward, and you can see Enda tracking him, and he's doing well, in fairness to Enda, tracking him, and then he's tired after an 80-yard run tracking. And where do you want Enda for the next kick out? Up the pitch, we win a kick out, you want Enda on the ball. So I think it's unfair on Enda playing in midfield. I said this the last time, he needs to be further forward in order for us to get scores and for Enda to get more scores, and he doesn't need to be doing that tracking back. Someone else can do that job very easily. It's just tracking a player. And Enda was very honest at the weekend, tracking his player, but unfortunately that means he's tired for the next attack, and he's kind of out in midfield then slowing the ball down a bit, and he can't do what he would be renowned for, I suppose, taking on his man and taking a score as often as he would like. So again, I'd question the position of certain players like that as well.
Yeah, like even some players has been interesting. Like Conor Hand was one of the second half of the league. Although we lost a few, he was a positive. Whatever's happened there, I'm not sure. He's been out of favour. He came on for 10 minutes at the end. Okay, didn't make an impact, but it's hard being thrown in there. Keith Doyle, another one that was doing quite well at the start of the league. Okay, again, he's come on in a couple of games, maybe not being himself, but he only came on for Eddie as a blood sub. We didn't see him again for the rest of the game. And then you even look at maybe like the likes of Declan Kenny coming on for 5 minutes at the end, not played a single minute all year. Again, probably one of the outstanding players in the club championship last year, one of Pearce's, if not best player. I was fully expecting him to get game time, and he's thrown in for 5 minutes, and it's kind of like, well, can he do much? It's his inter-county debut for 5 minutes at the end. What can he do?
Yeah, there's been strange calls all year, strange decisions, and it's very hard to figure out. If you were looking in from the sideline, what you would initially say is that Davy Burke doesn't know who his 15 is, doesn't know what their best positions are, and isn't consistent with his 15 or his 20 or even his 25, it looks like. So it's just strange. I don't know, like, you'd be then logically following on for that, you'd have to wonder, well, why is he making these kind of decisions? Are some of them, as I might call them, political decisions? Are some of them doing somebody a favour? Is that just saying to Kenny, look, I give you your debut, am I a great manager giving another player a debut? I don't know. It just, we don't have answers to those, but they're the questions that you would like to ask and like to find out, because it just all seems very strange. The decisions and the players playing, but not the players playing, but the selection of the players and why in certain times and instances there's one player playing and then another one not. And you would just wonder what is going on there. And all of that together, with the way they're playing, with the Ultan Harney incident a couple of weeks ago and a bit of unrest in the camp, it just goes to show, I suppose, that it's a management and a manager that has kind of lost the dressing room, lost control, lost the way of what he wants to do with this team. And unfortunately, it will, I'm pretty sure, be the end of the Davy Burke era with Roscommon. And Roscommon, yet again, have to go looking for another manager in November.
Yeah, well, look, Davy Burke, and he said it after the game, points to the fact that, Roscommon did get promoted to Division 1. I think that was like a realistic target. I think it was probably the bare minimum, really, when we looked at the start of the year. And I remember I sat here with yourself and Cathal, and we were probably fully expecting Roscommon to get out of Division 1. I suppose it was the manner that we kind of limped over the line. Now, the league table, I like to, and I agree with it, it never lies. Roscommon had more points than the teams below them, so technically they deserved promotion, but they limped over the line. And even just a thing, and you mentioned the teams in Division 2, so you have Monaghan that are flying, you have Meath are in a quarter-final, Cork bet us, you have Louth won a Leinster, Down are still in it and looking good. Cavan are still actually in the championship, they bet Mayo. So, it's actually incredible to think that out of the 8 teams in Division 2, we are, it's fair to say we are the worst informed team in Division 2. If league was played now, we'd probably get relegated.
Yeah, and that's the thing about it. When we, up until, I don't know when, we say in the last 10 or 12 years, if you were to ask someone around the country, would Roscommon beat the likes of Cork, Cavan, Meath. I'd nearly throw in someone like Sligo. I throw in Down. I throw in Cavan. The answer for most people and Roscommon players and Roscommon management and Roscommon supporters would be definitely yes, because that was the case. But if you were to ask them now, all those teams I just mentioned, I would say we'd lose to them right now if there was a championship game tomorrow. Most people would probably put the other team as a favourite, and that smacks of a lack of progress, clearly. So this team has gone backwards. There's no doubt about it. If that's the question and that's the answer that most people would have, then we're gone backwards. And if we're the eighth best team on form in Division 2, then we're definitely gone backwards since February, when you should be peaking now. So it's disappointing. It's disappointing for the players, people like Kieran Murtagh, who came back to put in a big effort, and that's where we are now. And this is not an attractive proposition for a management team to take over Roscommon right now. You're in Division 1. You can say for almost certainty that Roscommon will be in the bottom 2 of Division 1 next year. That has been the case even when we're going well. So it's definitely going to be the case next year. So who's going to start off their Roscommon management year with almost guaranteed relegation unless things go surprisingly well? And then you're into another championship where just things aren't going well. It looks like now this is a complete rebuilding job for Roscommon. New faces, younger players have to come in, and it looks like we haven't capitalised on all these good players. And I said to you several times, I'd love if Enda Smith, Kieran Murtagh, Jeremy Murtagh, Brian Stack, Donny Smith, I feel they deserved to be at some stage in their careers in an All-Ireland semi-final. And that's just not going to happen now. And a lot of it, I would say, is down to poor management.
Yeah, I might get back to I suppose the future, but I just want to touch on it because I said no one will be as or more disappointed. Like, we're all disappointed. We all want the best for Roscommon. No one will be more disappointed than the lads themselves. They put in Trojan work over the last 6 or 7 months, and I suppose leaving Portlaoise, I was gutted, obviously, at losing the game, but you're gutted for the likes of Kieran, who's come back. The effort they've put in. Kieran, Jeremy, Donny, and you can name Davy Murray, even Ronan Daly, a lot of players there that have given 10 years to that senior team. And as you mentioned, you would have loved to have seen them maybe get another Connacht title or, a big day in an All-Ireland semi-final. It's just not happening. And, you've been in that kind of dressing room. It's tough to take when you lose a championship game like that.
It's very tough. It's very tough. And the players need to sit down and do a review of all that. Why did it end up like this? Why was there no progress throughout the year? What was going on with training? We've done this before as players, and players can be very honest if you do it in the right way. And when you present that to a county board, I mean, you have to come up with something different, or things need to change. And I'm sure things will change. But the thing is, as I said there, it's not an attractive proposition. How is it going to change, and how are the county board going to get the right people in the next time? And my belief is there isn't that many people out there. There certainly isn't that many in County Roscommon. But I would say that if you did a proper search of top clubs around the country, you would put a management together if you really wanted to. If you look at the last 8 clubs that were in the All-Ireland Club Series, for example, last 10, last 12 even, you could put together a very, very good management team of proper coaches, proper management, not spoofers, I would say.
Well, I mean, you're saying it's not an attractive job. I mean, I beg to differ. I think it is an attractive proposition. You're taking over a team in Division 1. Like, for a manager, say, like the Dublin job you're not getting on all those, say, top 6, top 7 jobs, you're starting in Division 1. And in fairness, 3 years ago, Davy Burke came in, and the same kind of comments were said. Roscommon had just lost to Clare the year before, but they're starting Division 1. Everyone expected them to get relegated. They actually finished 3rd in Division 1. They bet Mayo in the Connacht Championship. Okay, disappointing end to Cork, but it wasn't an overly bad year, in fairness, that year. Is it not an attractive job for someone, to be a young, hungry coach that wants to prove themselves? that's done club level, like you say, maybe at the later stages?
Well, I think okay. I hear what you're saying. I think it's a reasonable point. I think that obviously we still have some good players. It's about now linking in with the under-20s, linking in with younger players around clubs around Roscommon, and it's about rebuilding. And I think the right couple of people for that job need to be found. It needs to be a thorough search. It needs to now not be someone who maybe has a name and needs success. We'll say more of getting things right in place. Like even for example, things right include everything around Roscommon. This centre of excellence, for example. I think I came on the panel first in around 2007. I could be wrong and say this, but I'd be fairly accurate around the years around that year or the year before. That plot of land in Oran was bought for a centre of excellence. So we're talking 20 years later. We still have a county manager who's going to be begging for pitches on the 7th of January next year to go training. So that's 20 years. So things haven't been done right in general. And if we are to improve, things have to start being done right at every level. And that starting point for that would be getting the right people for this job.
Yeah, well, look, we have to say that Davy Burke is still the manager. He'll point to the fact that the last few years, as I mentioned, year one, third in Division 1, big win against Mayo, draw against Dublin. Year 2, get relegated, but, an All-Ireland quarter-final appearance, which is, I suppose probably as much as we can ask for in Roscommon. This year, a promotion to Division 1. Championship has been a disaster. So, I mean, how would you reflect on it? Like I said, he is still the manager. I know it's expected that there probably will be a change after this year from a lot of people. But how would you reflect on the last 3 years?
Reflecting on the last 3 years, the main thing you take from it, has there been progress? So if we had got knocked out at this stage, or if we hadn't got promoted to Division 1, I don't think personally I would have minded if I could see that there's been an improvement on the pitch in terms of how we're playing, the style we're playing. Younger players have come in and started playing well. I mean, who has there been? Ben, Darragh, Craig, Conan, maybe, Neary only this year, and not too many on the bench coming in. You mentioned Kenny, but that was only a token. I'll give you your debut here. Don't know why that was necessary. So, I mean, there needs to be more introduced. There needs to be a clearer style of play. And I don't know what goes on in training, but there needs to be, I would suggest, better coaching from a manager that comes in next. So reflecting on the 3 years, we have disimproved basically, and that is never good.
Yeah, I just look, you'll reflect maybe then on the when Davy came in that, maybe the last few years of Anthony Cunningham was pretty similar. So is this a trend maybe that has been even into past management teams that has just continued on and there has been no progress, maybe not even beyond this 3 years? We haven't won a Connacht title since 2019. So has this even been going past 3 years ago?
Possibly, yeah, possibly. I think that, again, like I said just there a couple of minutes ago, it's possibly bigger than just the manager and the manager that's picked by whatever committee is formed to select that. Maybe it's all the things. It's facilities, it's the attitude of everything around, from the players to the training to everything. The question is, when players have their review, are they happy to just roll on into next year? I would say that there are some players who often are happy to go, there's another year done now, I'll put on the Roscommon jersey again in January and go at it again, without fully thinking why they want to do that, without fully thinking, do we want to improve? How are we going to improve? I feel like there needs to be longer reflection from players, from county board, from everyone involved or that might be involved next year, and think about how they can all come together to improve this, because it needs to be improved. And sometimes I feel like with everyone, players, management, county board, and whoever else it might be, it's like the year is over, nothing happens now till November, and then someone goes, right, we're up and running again, and there's been no thought put in for those couple of months as to well, how is it going to improve? And like, I'm saying that would be my attitude. That was always my attitude as a player. People listening to this might say, well, why is he saying that? Sure, sometimes he turned up and he was laughing and joking at training and messing, and some managers didn't like me. That's fair enough. That's fine. Some players didn't like me. That's fine. But one thing that I always had when I was there is I knew why I was there. I knew what I wanted to achieve. And as I said in a players' meeting one day with all the players, I wasn't there to make friends. I was there because I wanted to play football and I wanted to improve as a footballer and I wanted Roscommon to do well. And I don't know if everybody involved can say that every day they're there.
Yeah, just nearly finally on the senior team, I think the key now is, as I said, Davy Burke is still the manager, but we can't have a long drawn out process of uncertainty. We know we need clarity within, like I say, within the next couple of weeks. I mean, we saw the last time we went out to, 3 years ago, we went out to Clare. I think everyone felt at the time Anthony Cunningham's time was probably up, but it was a long drawn out process. I think it went on maybe a couple of months. Then the manager search went on 2 or 3 months, and you're suddenly into October. The club championship is essentially nearly done, and Davy Burke is appointed. And I think actually a similar thing happened with Anthony Cunningham's appointment. I think that was late enough. You don't want the stage where we're appointing a manager in October again. You want them to get a good look at the club championship and see, can we unearth 1 or 2 extra players for next year? Like this, I think the key thing is now we need a plan in place and we need clarity soon enough.
Yeah, and you'd like to think that Davy Burke will come out himself in the next week or 2 or go to the county board. He doesn't have to come publicly and say what he wants to do. Say he's fully entitled to say, listen, this is what I did. This is what I think I can do. I want to stay on. And then it'll be up to someone else to decide whether that is going to happen or not. But that has to be done. And as you say, sometimes I don't even know if that's even done, to be honest, until a later stage. But I do agree with you. That needs to be done very, very soon. And everyone needs to be clear as what's happening next year, from the players to supporters to everybody else. It needs to be a very clear process. And yeah, that's all I would say about it.
Yeah, look, just to finish up, obviously disappointing year for the seniors. We have one team left. The minors are playing on Sunday in Cavan, 1:30 in Kingspan Breffni against Tyrone. I know from our own club there's 3 involved, so you'll know a few of the players. And look, you were a minor 20 years ago. Opportunities to get into All-Ireland finals at any age group for Roscommon players are rare. So, hopefully a big crowd gets out and supports them, and, hopefully we get over the line and get a final spot.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised if it happens. The minors have gone about it the hard way. They've started games fairly well. They've kind of gone out of games, and then they've finished games absolutely brilliantly the last 10 minutes of games. So that's a very good sign. So if we do find ourselves down against Tyrone by a few points, you can be sure that Roscommon will rally and get back into that game if that happens to be the case. Very, very much so. And interestingly, the minors seem to know what they're at in terms of their style of play. Seem to be very well coached by Shane Moore and the lads. So they've been doing very well. Excellent team, some excellent players all around, from midfield with Sam Hannon to centre back to up front with our 2 lads, the Shallies, to the goalkeeper Trimble. So I mean, it's a very good team, and everyone will be expecting Tyrone to win that comfortably, which is fantastic for Roscommon because you'd never know. This might be an upset.
Absolutely, and just to finish up on, I think actually the scheduling hasn't helped them, because I think this has to be looked at, because they were waiting 4 weeks for the Connacht final. They win the Connacht final. I think they're waiting another 3 or 4 weeks for the quarter final, then like 1 game in about 7 weeks. So I suppose the fact they played 2 weeks ago hopefully will help them going into this game. And look, I suppose big underdogs like Roscommon teams aren't meant to beat Tyrone, but as you said, you'd rather be a strong underdog than a strong favourite, especially in a minor game.
Yeah, and it's great being underdogs, we'd say nationwide, but having seen them being underdogs, knowing they're actually a very good team, makes me think that you'd never know if there just might be a surprise here, and that would be great. It's great to already be there, but you just never know.
Well, thanks to Conor for joining me this week, and best of luck to the minors. That game in Kingspan Breffni, 1:30 against Tyrone. Hopefully a big Roscommon crowd come out and support the lads, and who knows, we might have another day out just yet. And this podcast will be available on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and you can find us on our YouTube channel as well.